And now we have another important management with us, Marico. Reported largely in line with expectations. Fourth quarter numbers. Domestic volumes have declined 3%. Even that was on expected lines. Saugata Gupta, Managing Director and CEO of Marico, joins us now. Good morning, Mr. Gupta. Well, I believe you first want to make a clarification on the Q4 numbers adjusted for last year's taxes. Tell us, I mean, I can imagine that the profit looks lower because last year there was an exceptional tax entry.
Yeah, there was a 188 crore tax write-back. So, like to like, the PAT decline is minus 3%, which is, considering the current situation, we believe it's pretty in line.
Okay, fine. Well, with that clarification out of the way, let us come to how you look at the current situation. How are you looking at April, May, June? Is it looking like things can be better? Are you operating at, I mean, if you can tell us the capacity you're operating at, and what is the kind of demand you're looking at?
I think the situation is improving. I think we have been working closely with the government authorities, and the entire sector is working, and things are opening up. Supply chain is gradually opening up. Having said that, for us, maintaining the strict protocols and health and hygiene is important. And as we get more availability of supply chain and people, I think the production is getting ramped up to something like 60%. We are also clocking in the last, as we exited April, we are back to 70 to 80% of our annual run rate in sales. Obviously, there is a much more focus in terms of the consumer preference towards items of daily consumption and staples. Discretionary is something the consumer is not really looking at this point in time, other at the top end of e-commerce. I think what will make a difference is availability. I think because, as you know, especially in the urban areas, are still under strict lockdown, and there is a so therefore, how do you make the product available? And we have been looking at alternate different last mile channels to make the product available, including we have started our own direct to consumer response for Saffola. So I would think things will gradually improve, but there would be some permanent changes we see in consumer behavior and consumer purchase patterns, which consumer companies have to cope with and navigate their way through.
Mr. Gupta, good morning. In fact, that was my next question, and it's good to hear that your production will eventually ramp up to about 60% in the near term. But on consumer behavior itself, where do you see things changing? I mean, in your numbers, we've noticed that Saffola volumes have gone up 25%. I guess that's what people are stocking up on in the lockdown. But you tell us, going forward, which are the segments where you see some demand return? Which are the segments that could still see a bit of a challenge?
So I think there are clearly 3-4 trends that will emerge. One is that a consumer shift towards health and hygiene. There will be far more in-home cooking occasions and in-home eating occasions of healthy in-between meals. The third thing will people perhaps we see more purchase happening from e-commerce and the kiranas for the top-up. And I think there will be a focus towards trusted brands who are safe and provide value. And I think what is most important is making the product available, because I think consumers are looking for trusted brands, but they're also looking for products. If your product is not available, so the last mile availability, especially I think as the economy opens up in rural, we haven't, obviously the disruption in supply chain will be slightly more higher, but as you know that a significant portion of the rural areas are in the green zone. As I said, when it opens up, making the product available to direct distribution is very, very critical, because a lot of urban wholesalers might not operate at full capacity simply because customers will not come all the way across from rural areas to buy from them. So I think these are the 4-5 changes we see. And I believe that at the discretionary end, I think at the very top end, obviously consumption will remain. But I think there would be challenges as far as items of low penetration and discretion is concerned in the immediate term.
Okay, I'll come back to demand in a bit, but before that I also want to ask you what's happening with respect to any kind of working capital issues, any cash crunch that the company or the industry is facing at the moment. Are you giving easier credit lines to your dealers, or paying later to your vendors? I mean, how is that whole that whole feature shaping up?
So you know that this sector and most of the companies in this sector have very high free operating cash flows, and in fact our cash flows increase during the year. I don't think that is a area of stress at all for us and a lot of companies in this sector. I think we are supporting our distributors in the form of credit. We have also given support to our distributor, third party people who are on their roles in terms of providing them health cover, incremental health cover, and also giving them cash support. We are ensuring that our vendors are also supported. It's not that we are trying to, because especially who are in the MSME sector, so we have to support them, because at the end of the day, they are critical components for us to ramp up as we, and also including all our other logistics and other supporters. So I think while we are keeping a close tab on our, I think we are far more aggressive on our cost, cost management. We are looking at zero-based costing. But as far as working capital is concerned, we are very comfortable.
Okay. Well, a final question to you, Mr. Gupta. How are you looking at volumes this quarter? The last one was a decline of 3%. This time, you're producing only to 60% capacity, you said. So, steep declines in volume this quarter. What about the quarter after, July, August, September?
I think, see, as I said, that we don't have any immediate concern even on the finished goods availability. What will happen is kind of a little bit of production not working at full capacity. I think we are a little more working on a far more thin supply line. That doesn't mean that we don't have stock to actually do a sales in May and June. I think the way to look at it is this, that I think as long as the fact that we are I think this quarter is very unpredictable. It depends on how much things open up. But I believe that if we get our execution right and some of the refocus in our portfolio, we are looking into health and hygiene and food far more aggressively while refocusing on male grooming. And a significant portion of our portfolio are items of daily use. I would say 80 to 85% if you provide value. I think there would be comfort in terms of the kind of performance we can deliver. I think also it's important to note that even if the category growths are a tad lower, we have to make it up to market share. So it's very difficult to give a prediction on volume right now. I think we'll be in a much more better position to actually give our kind of outlook sometime at the end of the quarter. Having said that, I think our strategy is in place, and I think in relative terms we should be able to do well in quarter 3, quarter 4 if we get our execution right.
All right, Mr. Gupta, no one can predict the future, especially at an unprecedented time like this. Thanks so much for joining us. So that's the word coming in from Marico. They say that consumer preferences have changed during the lockdown. They've moved from discretionary to staples, and more preference moved towards hygiene and hygiene related products. All right, let's shift gears now from equities to commodities and get a quick word in on what's happening in that space.